San Diego, beaches, sunshine, and a lifestyle that's hard to beat. But let's be real, it also comes with a hefty price tag. The housing costs continue to skyrocket, the cost of living keeps going up, and living here is starting to become less and less of a reality for some, especially for locals. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down what's really happening with San Diego's rising costs. We're also going to hear from locals on their experiences and figure out why, despite it all, so many people are still fighting to call this place home. Hi, I'm Jamie Lennon, a local San Diegan, and I'm also a realtor who's helped countless families relocate to the greater San Diego area. And with that, let's jump in. We're starting off with one of the biggest challenges that unfortunately continues to make headlines. California is home to more than 160,000 homeless individuals. That's 1/5 of the entire U.S. homeless population, and about 8,400 of them live in San Diego County. That's a 10% increase since January of 2020. You see encampments are along sidewalks, they're under freeway overpasses, they're in parks, especially in downtown and East Village. That's where you see the largest homeless population in the county. And figuring out how to provide enough shelters and real long-term solutions has been a constant challenge for the city. So the city is constantly trying to address homelessness with cleanups and sweeps, but the reality is that these efforts mostly just push encampments from one place to another instead of leading to permanent housing. People often just relocate to another part of the city. There are going to be new shelters and affordable housing projects that are in the works, but the demand is overwhelming. For every new shelter bed or low-income housing unit that becomes available, there are far more people who need it. So while these efforts help, they're not nearly enough to solve the actual problem. So nonprofits and outreach programs, they do step in to provide food, medical care, and temporary relief, but they are stretched very thin. So a lot of these organizations rely on donations and they have limited funding. So even though they're doing great work, they don't have the resources to create lasting change on a large scale. It's a complicated issue. And while there are efforts being made, real solutions are still a long way off. Some areas are seeing improvements though. I have seen it personally in the downtown area. But again, it's mainly them being displaced to other areas that are generally not in the public eye or near high touristy areas. You have local organizations that are stepping up to offer support as well. But honestly, San Diego's housing crisis means the problem is so far from being solved. While homelessness is a visible challenge, even those who are fortunate enough to have a place to live are feeling the strain. The rising cost of simply maintaining a home, from utilities to insurance, is making life in San Diego more expensive than ever. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, San Diego has the highest energy prices in the entire country, even over Los Angeles and San Francisco. No wonder why HOA dues have increased so much in the past 5 years. It's to keep up with the cost for utilities, among other things. Drought conditions also mean that the cost for water increases. And then you have gas prices. Again, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, gas in San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco are comparable for being the highest in the country. No real surprise there though, right? It is California, and they love their taxes. Another big issue we're seeing here in San Diego and all across California is the growing insurance crisis. Whether you own a home or not, you've probably heard about it. There are fire, earthquake, and flood risks here. So a lot of major insurance companies have either pulled out of California, stopped offering new policies, or drastically reduced the number of homes that they'll cover. Big companies like State Farm, Allstate, and Nationwide. I guess they're not on our side after all, at least not if you live in California. They're saying that it's just too risky to do business here thanks to the high replacement costs and the fact that they can't raise premiums enough to cover those risks. And to be honest, the wildfires we've been seeing across Southern California are only making things extremely worse. And it's not just home insurance. Even auto insurance is getting harder to find. Even for people with a perfect driving record, case in point, my policy got canceled out of nowhere. And now I'm stuck paying nearly double with a company I've never even heard of before. So before you move here, definitely check your coverage options. Now, there are going to be ways that people are combating these high prices. Solar panels are a given. They offset electricity costs, but initial installation can be expensive. But pretty much any homeowner can install solar panels in California because we get so much sun exposure all year round. It does pay off, it just takes time. The good news is that I have started seeing more solar panels being paid off. So when you buy a home with solar panels that are paid off, it's quite a good deal. Then there is the drought-resistant landscaping that has taken over and replaced the need for the greenest lawn in the neighborhood. This is going to help reduce water consumption, and honestly, some yards even look better nowadays, and people like the fact that it's easier to maintain over a lawn and cheaper. At least you're not having to run your heater or AC all year long, right? Silver lining. If you think utilities and insurance are expensive, just wait until you hear about how much we pay in taxes. Let's be real. California is known for having some of the highest taxes in the country. Let's talk about property taxes. The good news there is that California actually has one of the lowest property tax rates in the U.S. thanks to Prop 13, which keeps rates at 1% of a home's assessed value and limits increases over time. So if you've owned your home for a while, your property taxes are probably pretty reasonable. But if you're buying now, that's a completely different story. Since home prices in San Diego are on the higher side, that 1% can add up fast. Then there's state income taxes. And yeah, this is where California really hits your wallet. The highest earners pay over 13%, which is the highest state income tax in the country. Even if you're not in that top bracket, California taxes most income levels more than other states. But here's the thing. While taxes are high, it's also part of what funds the lifestyle people love here. We've got well-maintained state parks like Torrey Pines and Up in Big Sur, for instance, and of course, all the beautiful beaches. There are great public schools in many areas and tons of infrastructure that makes living in San Diego so desirable. So yeah, the cost is high, but for a lot of people, it's worth it to wake up every day and live in a place that feels like paradise. But taxes are just part of the equation. The real shock? What it actually costs to own or even rent a home here. Let's take a trip back in time. 10 years ago, the average cost for a single-family home in San Diego was just under $500,000. So if you bought a home in 2015, congrats, you made a great decision because home prices have nearly doubled since then. But for anybody looking to buy in 2025, be prepared for a serious reality check. The median price for a single-family home has now climbed to about $1 million. That is the new normal. The good news? There are still more affordable options out there. It just depends on how close you want to be to the coast. If you're willing to explore different parts of the county, there is still some really great opportunities out there. San Diego is an incredible place to live, but there's no sugarcoating it. Buying or renting here is expensive. Even renting a one-bedroom apartment now is over $2,500 a month. The main reasons are due to high demand, gentrification, and a low supply of housing that continues to push prices up every year. New housing developments are popping up, but there's the catch. They're mostly geared towards high-income buyers. Luxury condos, high-end apartments, and master plan communities keep expanding, but they don't exactly solve the affordability problem for the middle class. But here's the good news. There are still pockets in the county where buyers can find more affordable options. One of the best examples is going to be Oceanside up in North County. It's one of the last relatively affordable coastal cities in SoCal, and it's undergone a major transformation over the last few years. If you want to deep dive into what it's like living in Oceanside, go check out one of my latest videos on Oceanside. I've actually made quite a few because it's such a great area to explore, especially when you're looking to buy a home. Beyond the cost, some of the more budget-friendly areas are going to include Chula Vista and Santee, which are great for families looking for more of that suburban space. Then you have Escondido and Vista, which are drawing in buyers who want more land while still being close to the North County beaches. These spots are becoming increasingly popular for people looking to get more for their money without sacrificing their quality of life. Now here's the silver lining. If you can afford to buy, real estate in San Diego is one of the best investments that you can make. Home values continue to trend upward, and the long-term appreciation here is strong. It's a high-demand market, meaning homes here tend to hold or increase in value over time, and even though it's pricey, San Diego offers a lifestyle that's just hard to match, which is why so many people still make it work. But don't just take my word for it. Let's hear directly from the locals who live here and see what they have to say. By the way, filming in University Heights, aren't these homes just amazing? This is one of the best neighborhoods. This is where you're going to find your Craftsman-style homes. Just love it. So my first question is, what is your name and how long have you lived in San Diego?
My name is Ryan. I've lived here about 6 years.
And where'd you move from?
Minnesota, Minneapolis.
Nice. Okay, so Midwestern.
Midwestern.
Did you move here because of the weather?
You nailed it, 100%.
Of course.
I mean, I think today is 12 degrees there, and you have 10 feet of snow, so something like, I mean, today is perfect, so this is exactly why most people move here, weather.
My name's Pierce, and I've lived in San Diego for around 7 years now.
And where did you move from, Pierce?
Santa Barbara, California.
Santa Barbara. So still Southern California. So you stayed in the area somewhat, right? How much are you paying in rent or / mortgage?
I pay around $2,300 for my place.
And then where is that? Where do you live?
I'm in Crown Point, outside of Pacific Beach.
Crown Point. So Crown Point is a neighborhood in PV. It's honestly one of the best neighborhoods in PV. I love Crown Point.
I live downtown. I'm 2,600. Right up there, yeah.
Okay. And have you lived there for 6 years since you've been here?
I've lived downtown 6 years, but my rent is about the same, 2,500 to 2,600.
Well, that's good. At least they didn't, raise it so much since you've been there.
Well, everything since 2018 has gone up. For instance, my unit in 2018 was about 1,800, so now it's 2,600. Some units are 2,800, so that was $1,000 gap in a couple years.
Definitely. So what are some hidden expenses people don't think about before moving here?
Hidden expenses, I mean, if you rent, obviously there's rent, but the biggest thing is like your fuel costs, the costs to drive, gasoline costs, food costs. Maybe for the younger people, if you go out a lot, you'd be shocked at how expensive drinks are. Yeah. That's the biggest killer. Coming from the Midwest, a Bud Light is maybe $5. Here, you'd be lucky to get it under $9. So if you're a big drinker, that's going to get you. If you love going out to eat, that's probably your big expense. You can live relatively cheap outside your rent if you don't drink and you meal prep and eat at home. But other than that, everything is expensive.
I guess the price of everything, right? Groceries and so on. But electricity, gas, water is very, very expensive. So those items tend to add up every month.
Yeah, utilities in general, very high here. Yep. Do you feel like most of your income goes towards your housing?
No. But it is expensive regardless, so.
Well, that's good. That's where we want to be. We don't want to feel house poor, right? That's the goal.
Agreed, yeah.
That's good.
Personally, no. I mean, to me, it's affordable, but I understand that the price point of San Diego is very elevated. And particularly, we're in Little Italy right now. A one-bedroom in this building right here, $2,850. And then there's a lot of new developments around. You'll be lucky to get a one-bedroom for $3,200.
Yep.
So, it doesn't, but I know a lot of people it does. It's a big expense for them.
It is, especially if you want to live in a happening area like downtown Little Italy specific.
Yeah.
You're paying those premiums.
You are, and the tricky thing is, the challenge about San Diego is everywhere is expensive. So let's just say you lost a job or you just don't have enough money because something happened in your life, health insurance, whatever it may be. It's not like you could just pick up and move inland or move to a different city. It's not like that'll be cheaper. There's no cheap places. Even, I guess, the worst part of town, which really isn't bad, those are $1,850 for a really, really gross place. But I look all the time, and there's nothing you can find that's cheap.
But it's like this everywhere. San Diego, obviously, it's more expensive, but when you compare it to other areas and salaries, everywhere's gone up so much.
I met up some friends from Minnesota. They're in town this weekend, and what they're paying in rent, I could live like a king for what I pay here. But he's going back, and he's dreading his life tonight. He's like, going back to 13 degrees, and he's like, I wish I could stay, but I can't.
What is the biggest financial sacrifice you've made to live in San Diego?
I guess just savings in general. So, I don't spend all my money on housing, but, if I had more or less to spend on rent and utilities, I would have more to save and invest.
I didn't really personally, everyone has a different story. Personally, for me, it wasn't a big enough issue to deter me to come here or even to LA. But one thing that definitely I keep note of is price of housing. That's the biggest thing, because they're building a lot. In the past 6 years, there's been about 12 new apartment buildings built downtown. And even we have more supply, but yet the prices haven't gone down yet.
Yeah.
So that's the tricky part.
And then if you could change one thing about the cost of living here, what would it be?
I would say the price of owning a house.
Yes. Is that something you've ever thought about, buying a house?
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, we all want to own a house, right? We all want to be homeowners at one point. Do you ever think you're going to buy a house in San Diego?
I think yes. I think I definitely have a plan to have property here. But it has been on my mind to kind of look elsewhere as far as investment properties, just because it is expensive to buy land here.
Well, obviously the rent price, that's the hardest thing. And outside of that, I think the biggest thing people forget, if we're not talking about renting, if you're buying a house, a lot of people forget California, you're taxed on the price you buy your house at, and it only appreciates a bit your tax roll. But other cities, like Minnesota, for example, you buy a house on day one, every year you're taxing an assessed rate. So a lot of people forget, there's a lot of people in San Diego that bought a house, 20 years ago for $200,000, it's worth $2 million. That's awesome. But they can't afford to pay taxes on $2 million because their tax rolls at $250,000.
Right.
So that's something unique about here, and particularly California, is a lot of people essentially are prisoners to their house because they have a beautiful house, they have a ton of equity, but if they want to sell it and they want to stay in San Diego, well, now you're buying a $2 million house and you might be able to afford it with your equity, but you're paying property taxes and your income can't afford that.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's something that people have to think about when they're buying property. A lot of people think property tax is really expensive. It's really not when you compare it to other states. It's expensive because home prices are expensive, but we don't get that assessment every single year. So our tax base can stay relatively low. We stay in that house for 20 years. And then my last question is living in San Diego worth the price tag? Why or why not?
I think it is. I really take advantage of the water and all the sports. I'm outside a lot of my time. I spend a lot of time doing sports outdoors. So I'm hiking, I'm surfing, I'm skydiving, I'm doing all the things. So I appreciate it because I can go snowboarding in 3 hours and go to the desert to ride motocross in a couple hours. So I really love California, and I was born and raised in California, right? So the prices to me are pretty normal. When I go other places and I see the houses are a couple $100,000, it kind of blows my mind. But $1 million to me for a house, it is expensive, but it doesn't blow my mind because that's what I was raised around.
For me, yes, because it's 100% weather derived, culture derived, city derived, the way it's set up. And the one thing people forget, and I'm not saying move here because we have enough people in San Diego, but we don't have traffic. Literally, Monday through Friday, if I want to get somewhere on the highway, I want to travel, barely any traffic. The only time we really have traffic is coming downtown during a Padres game because you have that rush of people coming here for baseball. Other than that, everything is great. So
Yeah.
I'm here.
I know firsthand what it's like to question whether living in California is worth it. So in 2021, I was definitely at a crossroads. I built my career in the Bay Area, but something was just missing, and I wanted to change. And like a lot of people during that time, I seriously considered leaving the state. But here's the thing. If you're a native Californian, leaving is very hard. And if you do leave, more often than not, you find yourself wanting to come back. I've seen it firsthand with so many people, so many families that have helped relocate to San Diego. Most of them that grew up here or moved away for work or maybe a new adventure, they eventually felt that pull to come back home. And honestly, I felt the same way. So I loved my time up in Northern California. But when I really started to think about where I wanted to plant my roots, I had to look at everything, right? I had to look at the cost for living and most importantly, where I would actually feel at home. I love the ocean, I love snowboarding, but I also hate cold weather. So moving somewhere with harsh winters was just not an option for me. I knew that in order for me to be happy, I needed to stay in California. So the more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't want to leave behind the ocean, the energy, and the lifestyle that makes California so special. San Diego was an easy choice for me, not just because it checked all the boxes, but also because my family is here. And no matter where you go in life, family is one of the biggest factors in deciding on where to live. So the past 4 years have been incredible. I've loved every second of living here. I do pay a lot in taxes, a lot in gas, insurance, and everyday expenses are more expensive. But when I'm driving down Highway 5 freeway, heading into downtown, and I have the bay on the right, I smile every time. It's so incredibly beautiful, it just never gets old. Living here for me means summer spent in Pacific Beach or up in Carlsbad, paddleboarding or sailing in the bay, It's going to be happy hours at Monarch or Sundeck up in Coronado during the sunset. It's 70-degree weather in February and breakfast burritos that will ruin you for all others. It's snorkeling in La Jolla Cove and watching whales migrate right from the shore. It's grabbing a beer with a friend at one of the many amazing breweries, like Ebbig in Point Loma, which is one of my favorites. Some days it's escaping to Julian for a quiet mountain getaway. Other days it's hopping over the border for a quick trip to Baja. I'd say I made the right decision back in 2021. After all, San Diego is my favorite place to live. And on top of that, I get to have a career that I love. I'm beyond grateful every day for the people who trust me to help them buy and sell real estate here. It's an honor to do what I do, and I truly believe that if you're looking for a place that feels like home, San Diego might be a great option to explore. San Diego might be one of the most expensive cities, but for many, the lifestyle makes it worth the high price. But what do you think? Would you pay to live here? It's not perfect, it's expensive, competitive, and it comes with its fair share of challenges, but with its unbeatable weather, thriving job market, and tech and biotech, it remains one of the most desirable places to live in the US. If you're considering making San Diego your next home, let's chat. Whether you're relocating, upsizing, or just trying to figure out if it's the right move for you, I'm here to help you navigate it all. Call, text, or email me anytime, because finding the right home in this market takes a local expert. I'm going to leave you the same way I always do, friends, and that is to stay classy. San Diego.